said, we see so many players that think, oh, I'm going to go here and I'm going to, I'm going to blow up, because I wasn't getting the minutes I thought I was going to get. And then all of a sudden, they realize, man, maybe it was better where I was. And then the second thing on top of that, people are jumping into the portal. Now, of course, your elite Power Five players are going to get picked up. They're definitely going to get picked up. There's no
Yeah.
ifs, ands, or
Yes.
buts. They're going to get picked
Yeah.
up. But
Yep.
we have what we're not talking about is the percentage of players that are not finding a home once they go into the portal.
Yeah.
And sometimes it comes down to the goodness of your heart if you're going to take them back, or it's you've moved on and you've had to recruit as well, and that scholarship is gone.
Yeah.
So now we have D2s that are doing exactly what D1s are doing. And I'm like, geez, it's getting tough out here.
It really is, and it's a pecking order. It's really levels to this entire thing, and the
Yes,
individuals that are going to eat at the end and beginning of every day are the Power Fives. They
yes,
have the pick of the creme de la creme.
correct.
They can go from whatever level and pluck the best players, and if they're interested, those players are going to come because there's a lot of amenities that come along with playing on the Power Five that's
Yes.
very attractive to a lot of players. Then, when it comes to the high mid major level that we function on, um, we get our players plucked, but we're hoping to scour the transfer portal to get some unhappy players that were once in the Power Five that are some bounce backs for us, or we can go and find other very solid players from other high mid major teams that might be unhappy and they're looking for a new opportunity.
So, and that brings up my next question. And for the people that are out watching tonight, the high school kids,
Yeah.
they're in a tough predicament now.
Ooh, my goodness. Yes, they are.
So, do you take junior college players?
I do. I do. Yep, I definitely do. We are open to whoever can
Okay.
hoop and wants to have an opportunity and you fit into the philosophy of what we run offensively, defensively, and culturally here at Old Dominion University, then you're
Mhm.
more than welcome to come and join this family. We're in a position where we want to position ourselves where we're not heavily reliant on the transfer portal. We do want to make sure we have a healthy balance because when you go into the transfer portal, you may be picking up individuals that have a year if they're grad transfers or if they have two. And then you go to JUCO, they have 2 years, and then before you know it, you'll have a senior class that is 6, 7 players deep because they came from JUCO and they came from the transfer portal, and they all are entering in academically under the same years of service left on the collegiate level. So you have to kind of balance it out by having a nice dose of high school players that are on your roster, someone that will trust the process and build with you,
Mhm.
and allow themselves to be groomed and developed. So now, when those players do leave, they can move right on into that slot, and we can keep the party going.
So, and that's a great philosophy that you have. So that means you're only going to bring probably about maybe two, no more than three high school prospects in to groom, just like you're saying, because of course, like you said, when you have that high turnover where you're going with 6, 7 deep, that's a lot to turn around in a whole team in another year or so. So you do want to have one of those prospects, like you said, that you're grooming to get to that point where they can be a leader in 2 years per se.
Exactly. And the major key to that working is them being patient. Them being patient and not getting overzealous and filled with angst and want it all right now. Usually,
Mhm.
when you're going in the transfer portal or you're going the JUCO route, that means your team is going to be more mature. They're going to
Yes.
have years of service under their belt. They're going to understand this level. They're going to understand the weight room. They're going to understand the schedule, how rigorous it is. So they're going to get it. High school players, there's an adjustment that they have to go through. So if you are a high school player, you're going to have to understand that when you're walking into a team, look at the roster. See how many vets they have. See how many vets they have in your position. And then you can kind of gauge whether or not this is a process that's going to be expedited for you or not.
which leads to a great question. I always love to ask coaches this. Let's just say I'm a high school senior and I'm considering your program.
Okay.
How would you react if I came to you and said, Coach, I would like the red shirt?
Whew. I've had that question asked of me, and
Okay.
I chose not to because
Okay.
the situation is I was in. I signed five true freshmen when I first took the job here,
Okay.
and um, that was tough. That was tough for those individuals because I didn't know the transfer portal was going to come into existence the way that it is. I didn't
Mhm.
know that they were going to allow players to opt in or opt out of seasons. And that
Yes.
just changed the whole scope of my recruiting board
Yes.
instantly and drastically. So when the player came in to ask me about that, I couldn't honor that because I felt like, number one, where we saw her at when we recruited her is a different level from where we need her to be currently. We
Okay.
changed conferences as well. So the
Yes.
style of play that I recruited her under, it doesn't fit necessarily the conference that we were going into this next upcoming season. So it
Okay.
was a lot of factors that made me tell this young lady no. That's something that we aren't able to do for her because there were too many things leaning more so towards it not being a situation where she can be productive and grow, and it wouldn't be fair to her. So
Okay.
she made the decision to go into the transfer portal, and now she's at another D1 institution, and I hope it works out well for her. But that's a
Absolutely.
tough one. That's a tough one.
To me, and I want to add just a little bit more to that. The only way a lot of times I see that working, and it's tough because number one, let's not even talk about your budget and the scholarship limitations. The only way I see that working is if they're high academic and they got an academic scholarship.
Exactly. That I think that's really it when you really look at it. Because we're in this business. Obviously, a lot of us have different reasons why we're in this business. But the
Mhm.
grassroots of it all is we want to grow the game.
Yes.
While we want to learn a great living at what we do, we want to give back, while we're earning a living. So it's going to come down to wins and losses. And
Correct.
now with the influx of movement that is taking place within collegiate athletics, coaches are really pinned in a corner to make decisions. If I go young, is my boss going to be patient with this process and allow us to get our butts kicked? And hopefully, the players will be patient through all of that butt kicking that we will end up becoming a very good team within a very good program, or the latter. You go and you become a veteran team rather instantly, and you try to hang your hats on winning games and getting into championship situations as quickly as you possibly can.
Man. And then you got to add another layer on top of what we're already talking about. Now you have to deal with name, image, and likeness. Now that's
Woo.
that. That's a whole nother. You know, you had COVID, and like you said, you didn't know how COVID was going to turn out, and nobody had any idea the way this name, image, and likeness is turning out. Some for the betterment, and then some needs to be tweaked as well. But honestly, that's changing recruiting as well now. And at first, it was just Power Fives, but now it's starting to slowly trickle down into the mid majors, and that's just a whole nother avenue. Like outside of your everyday of 100, 200 things you have to do, now you have to deal with that, and you're not technically dealing with it, but it's coming into play. Let's just put it like that.
It most definitely is. And, I understand why it's come into play. And I don't fault the athletes for trying to milk it for everything that it has to offer. What I do appreciate is the position that our university, our athletic department has taken, is where it's not on us to be
Yes.
the author of those deals and to be out there trying to wheel and deal. It's on the onus of the athlete. If that's something that you want to pursue, then we have resources available to help you, teach you, show you how to brand yourself and to get yourself out there. But in terms of us rolling our sleeves up and becoming a PR firm for you, that we're not here for that. We're in the business of educating you through your basketball efforts.
Let me ask this, and I always look at this as when you're recruited. I look at it as a family atmosphere. If a young lady does her 4 years, and when she's finished, she wants to get into coaching, can she be a GA at ODU?
That's the tough position. That's a position that I'm working on filling because I think it's a lucrative one because you had someone who has been through the mud with you for 4 years, maybe
Hmm.
5, and now they're looking for that next step. I want to be able to offer that to my own student athletes as well as others from other programs that would do well for us learning on the grassroots level. So I think the GA assistant, the GA position is one where it is well deserving of every program to have because it does such a great job of being a stepping stone for the next up and coming coaches in this business.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more because a lot of times, even from those GA positions, a lot of times those lead to JUCO and some of those high profile grassroots positions as well, which gives them that really good experience.
No doubt about it.
So let's move on to let's talk about some of your experience and how your experience of playing. I remember as a kid, in the 80s when I was in middle school and watching you play, because I was always, even though I love men's basketball, I learned the game from the women's basketball because guys tend to cheat the steps sometimes, and women they do everything to the T. So you can understand when the coach says, he wants to run the play this way, women will run the play to perfection. Guys will cheat because
Yeah,
they're so athletic. And
yeah.
when I was in middle school, I really learned by watching the game and just becoming, a student of the game. So, for like yourself, the Cheryl Millers, the Don Staleys, the Etna Campbell, who's from my hometown, so I was really, really big on women's basketball. And how did that translate into you coaching?
Well, being able to play the game at such a high level all over the world for many different teams, whether it's representing our country with USA Basketball, whether it's playing in the best professional league in the world, the WNBA, or playing internationally in the European League as a professional for 7, 8 months out of the year. I played at an elite level, and what it has done is it has become a melting pot of information for me. Where there are coaches that you guys will never ever hear of internationally that are phenomenal teachers of this game. And going over there and then experiencing that for 7 months on end for 16 years straight, I learned the purest form of the game. I was gifted with some athleticism and some speed and a 7 foot wingspan. So, like the men, we're kind of you have an internal cheat code when you are athletic like that. You can
Yes.
kind of cut some corners. But what do you do when your athleticism fades? What do you do when the other team scouts for you and they take away your athleticism and they
Mhm.
clog up the paint and you can't utilize that skill set? So going
Absolutely.
overseas and being in that system internationally, competing against those individuals through USA Basketball, I learned how to play the game from a cerebral standpoint and become very analytical with it. And when you're playing with Don Staley as your point guard, Teresa Edwards,
Yes.
on the court with you, Cheryl Swoops. I'm like, how there's no way possible you cannot learn how to play this game and how to really hone your craft and display how beautiful of an artistry it is on the women's side of the ball.
Absolutely. Now, here's the downside of that. And this is the one thing I really feel for women's basketball. And at some point, hopefully it could change. You just said yourself 16 years, and not all of them because the WNBA wasn't quite there yet. But when it got to the point where you're playing the WNBA and then going straight overseas, and then you come back and then you're playing WNBA, that's grueling right there. I mean, people understand that's more grueling than the NBA schedule.
Yeah, well, let me say this. Although I played with players like Teresa Edwards and Dawn Staley, that was because of the Olympics. But when I came out of college in '97, the WNBA had just come into existence. So
Mhm.
I was on that year-round schedule playing for three different teams for 16 years straight out of my 17. And the one year that I did take off was when I tore my ACL in 2004, right before the Greece Olympics. So
Mhm.
playing year round for all those years is very taxing on the body, but I
Yes.
wasn't concerned about that. What I was concerned with was leaving my mark on the game and allowing the opportunity that was in front of me to really expand my horizons in terms of my versatility on the floor, which would lead to longevity in the sport. So every year I would go over there. Yeah, I would be tired, but I invested a lot of money in my body and the upkeep of my body.
Mhm.
Where I had my food scientifically made and my blood spun and put back into my body. Just to whatever I needed to do to kind of give myself that edge of
Mhm.
being able to heal faster, being able to recuperate faster so that I can give hell on the court longer. I was willing to do. But those are memories that I'm so grateful that I had an opportunity to live out because it really allowed me to experience some beautiful things within this game.
Definitely, definitely. And what once you're when you were getting towards the end of your career, what was it that made you say, "I'm going to be a coach"?
I think the thing that made me become a coach was my husband, and he's actually on my staff, Roland H. Jones Jr. And he, along with Michael Cooper, who was my coach with the LA Sparks, and then
Yeah.
Carol Ross, who was my coach in college, um, and my high school coach, Janet Reddick. I remember distinct moments in those periods of time where someone once said to me, one day you're going to be a good coach. I didn't have a clue what they were talking about. And that was the last thing I wanted to hear from them. I'm like, I am not dealing with no hard headed kids. I'm too intense for all of this. Like, no, I'm not doing this. But after my playing career ended, an opportunity was presented to me by Ryan Weisenberg. He used to be a video coordinator with the Lakers and with the Sparks, and then he became a head coach at Pepperdine University. And he
Yes.
had a position opened up, and he called me and said, "Hey, I know you're still trying to play, but I would love to offer this opportunity to you if you wanted to take it." So my husband nudged me to go ahead and just step out and try it and see if I liked it. And I ended up loving it. And now I see it's my purpose and my passion.
Were you still playing when you took the position at Pepperdine?
I was still trying to play, but no one, for some reason, everyone wanted to go younger in the league, and they
Mhm.
would rather get two rookies for the price of one vet. So,
Absolutely.
I was kind of xed out because of that. I didn't get the farewell that I felt like I deserved. That you see a lot of players leave the game with, but it is what it is at this point.
But your pedigree, it speaks for itself. For anybody that's a basketball head, they know who you are. They definitely know who you are, and the Hall of Fame knows who you are. And
Yes.
that's just one of those things where I get what you're saying, to get that grand send out, but from a respect that you have, not only just around the country, just nationwide and worldwide, to be honest with you. I think that garners way more than the send off and everybody clap because even when I see you now, I see people still pointing, oh, there she is right there. And I was thinking to myself, boy, don't go to her right now. She's trying to evaluate. It's the wrong time. It's not the wrong time. You don't want to do that. So I wanted to touch about Old Dominion and what you guys have coming up this year. Um, Tell me a little bit about the 22-23 team that you have coming.
Well, the 22-23 team, we have 9 new
Whew.
faces that we've added to the program. And some of them are transfer portal, some of them are JUCO, and we have one that is a true freshman.
Okay.
And we still have one scholarship that we are looking to fill, but if the right player comes along, then we'll fill it either now or maybe mid-season. I don't know. But we are a new team, and I feel like we're a team that is filled with individuals that have a pretty complete skill set. We set our sights on finding players that they didn't have to be uberly athletic, but they had to have some level of athleticism to them while they're able to drive right and left, shoot a pull up jumper, shoot a three, drive to the basket. We wanted to have complete players so that that can allow me to open up my playbook even more, and we can take advantage of more things whenever we face opponents. But I'm looking forward to it being a fun year for us as we try to figure out what our identity will be now that we kind of have this new group. And we're going to settle in on that just being our goal.
I like that. Tell us about the conference move.
Yes, so we were once in Conference USA, and now we have moved to the Sun Belt Conference, which is the Fun
Yes.
Belt Conference, as everyone likes to say. And I think when you look at the well-being of the athlete experience, being in the Sun Belt Conference, it allows for games to be played closer to one another where we can jump on a bus, ride there, and probably be back the same day or maybe early the next morning. That is a luxury for a lot of athletes when you look at how rigorous their schedules are academically and athletically. We want to be able to give them an opportunity to recover so that when they are on the playing field, they're able to give their ultimate optimal best. We This is a new conference that we're entering to, so we really don't know what to expect. But when I look at film, from what I do see, they play fast, in your face, and it's intense. There's a lot of trapping. People are putting points up on the board when you playing against Troy, Georgia Southern, the likes of them. They are going to get up and down that court. So we have our track shoes ready to go for the Sun Belt Conference.
And what people understand is the Sun Belt Conference is going to be one of those conferences people are going to find out about. I mean, you mentioned Troy. You mentioned what? There's Mercer, there's Georgia State, there's Louisiana Lafayette. There's some good teams in the Sun Belt. The Sun Belt has done really good with the addition of you guys coming as well. That's going. I wouldn't be surprised if they get more than one invitation to the tournament.
Right, currently it is a one bid conference, but I'm
Mhm.
hoping that, we all can do well and put pressure on the NCAA to really give us a look. I hope that many of the teams in the conference are playing a competitive non-conference schedule so that we can raise our net collectively within our conference so that we can be a two bid conference. And I
Absolutely.
really feel like more mid majors deserve that opportunity because there are some Power Five teams that function in the mid to the bottom of their conferences that really don't deserve to make the field of 64. There are some mid majors that are very deserving of that who have 25 plus wins and they've done well and they played some very high profile teams and won or maybe even lost to them, but still it was a great game and they have a great product to put on display.
And to your point, when I was doing my research, the MAC conference, they sent what, like five teams to the WNIT last year? So, to your point of what you're saying, that's going to put pressure on the NCAA in the future when you're sending that allotment of teams and they're doing well. And it's not like they're getting blown out, they're advancing to the third round and further. And I definitely could see the Sun Belt in that position very soon, especially with the addition of ODU. Now, since I see you all over the place at different events,
Mhm.
what do you look for when you're out scouting for these young ladies?
Well, if we're out scouting, we pretty much have already set eyes on you in some way, shape, or form. So,
Hmm.
what we're trying to do is to confirm what we already know. But also, for me, I'm there to evaluate and pick up on some other little things. Parents may not know it, but we do our scouting report and we know who you are. We got your picture. We know who mom and dad is. We know who aunt and uncle is and grandma too. So we're watching you guys, how you carry yourselves, because
Hmm.
the apple usually doesn't fall too far from the tree. So
Very
if you're in the
true.
stands being belligerent and wild, then we can kind of look at that and be like, okay, that's interesting. Let's note that. If we look for characteristics within the players. You know, how coachable are you? How much of a team player are you? When things aren't going well, how do you respond? Um, we try to look for how you play with others, and hopefully it's other talent on your team to where we can see how you either stand out or you dim your light to for the sake of the team. So it's a lot of things that go into it for every coach. But more than anything, at the end of the day, no one wants a knucklehead. No one wants someone with a bad attitude, with a quick temper. No one wants someone that's mouthy. No one wants someone that's lazy and only plays one way, which is on the offensive end. We want people that can play, that are two-way players that can give the great effort offensively and defensively, and just commit themselves to the game and show that they've grown throughout the summer.
I couldn't agree more. And to expound on your point, nobody wants a culture killer, so to speak.
Correct. Correct. We all like our jobs, and some places are just good enough to get you fired.
And see, a lot of people don't realize that, like, if we're just going to be cut and dry, like, you have to win. And, you can't just every year, oh, we were 10 and 18, but next year we were 11 and 19 next year.
No, no one wants to hear that.
Yeah, exactly. That at some point the AD is going to be like, listen, we're going to go in another direction.
Yeah,
And, going in that other direction, people have to understand, like, you're here to win, and you have to make those tough decisions as well. Some of them are not going to be popular, but that's part of your job.
most definitely it is. I never want my AD to have to come in and tell me we're going in another direction. I always want them to be happy to see me coming, and they're there to slide a contract across the table for an extension. You know, that's my motivation. The same way that I was when I was a pro, I would have a 2-year contract, and my teammates would always be like, "Why are you working so hard? You already have 2 years on the books." And I said, "These 2 years are taken care of. I'm trying to get the next one." So my mentality with coaching, yeah, I may have 5 years on the book, but I'm trying to get five more. So there's a never quit, never die, always persevere and be diligent about my approach type attitude that I take with everything that I do.
And that's perfect what you just said, because what people don't realize is the hours that are put in for coaching. This is not a 9 to 5 job. Some days you're doing 10, 12, 13, 14 hours. Is that correct?
Oh my goodness, maybe 20.
Maybe
Maybe 20.
20. Whew. Okay.
I
Okay.
do leave myself about 4 to 5 hours for sleep. Then outside of that, you're really constantly, if you care, you're
Yeah.
constantly thinking about the young women on your team, within your program, on
Mhm.
and off the court. How do I better their lives, academically, culturally, athletically? I'm constantly thinking about that. And I do not have any kids of my own, but I have to applaud every mother and father out there, because if they're on my mind this much and I did not have them, I can only imagine how they sit on your heart and your mind when you do.
I like that. I like that. And just real quick, Old Dominion, that's teetering on high academic, right?
Yes, yes, it
That's what
is.
I thought.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is. Yes, it is. You can get a great education here, and just like any institution of academic institution, you can go anywhere, and I'm sure the connectivity of the network within those that have achieved degrees from there can be something that's promising and can help you. But when you look at Old Dominion University and what the women's basketball program has done itself, with 3 national championships, being able to call ourselves in the top 8 of programs that have over 1,000 wins, we're in the same conversation as Rutgers and UConn and Tennessee's, the
Mhm.
Pauls of the world. So that is fabulous for us to be in that conversation. Then when you look at the amount of pros, we have 11 former pros that were drafted either through free agency or through the draft in the WNBA. And we have one that is currently still in there, Jenny Sims with the Phoenix Mercury. She's there on a second or third 7-day contract with them. And then Tisha Penichero,
Oh, she's a
ODU
legend.
alum
Yeah.
legend, you know, she's
Mhm.
now an agent in the business. And
Okay.
then Nancy Lieberman coaching in the big three, coaching
Hmm.
on the men's side and just being the legend that she is in the world of women's basketball. So getting
Hmm.
a degree from here allows you to be able to position yourself and be in the same conversation with some pretty spectacular women within this game. And I would love to have my name in a conversation with them.
Oh, definitely. And now here's the thing: you only mentioned the WNBA players. I know there's a plethora of them have went overseas and played.
Oh yes, oh for sure. Like we have, you know, if you come to our lovely facilities, I'll give you a tour and we can show you our wall of fame where we have all of our individuals um, lined up in a row, and it's pretty impressive to see that many women come through this institution, leave the mark, and be trailblazers within the game the way that they have. Especially when I look at Marianne Stanley, she was one of my coaches in the WNBA, now a
Hmm.
Hall of Fame, soon to be Hall of Famer. She did tremendous things here, and now she was coaching with the Indiana Fever. Then you have Ann Donovan, God rest her soul. She was
Yeah.
my Olympic coach in 2020, and she played here and coached here and done. She did beautiful things here within this program and left a tremendous mark on the women's game. So we got a lot of good stuff going on over here.
I couldn't agree more. For the people that are watching, and I know this hits home as well. How important is it for a recruit to come in, whether it's JUCO, whoever, and know defensive principles in the shell drill?
It's so important. And for every AAU and high school coach that sits in the raggedy 2-3 zone, shame on you. Shame on you. I can
Mhm.
understand time scoring situation may allow for you to get in one, but when you just sit in that thing the entire game, you are hurting these young players. They are not going
Mhm.
to come here as ready as they should be. What
Mhm.
sense does it make for them to have all this athleticism and speed and quickness and IQ, but they only have it within a 2-3 zone?
Mhm.
I would love for my players to come in and understand help side, understand different pick and roll coverages, because we run a pro system over here. So we're going to do a lot of things that you will see on the next level because that's what we're training you and developing you for the next level. So if high school and AAU on the grassroots levels can help us by allowing their teams to play man to man more, and you teach them the basic principles of guarding someone one on one or even being able to put themselves in great position to be help side. You would make a lot of our jobs a lot easier. You would cut the practice plan in half in terms of the time that we have to spend revisiting those conversations every single day.
Definitely. I couldn't agree. What you're saying hits home so much because not only are you preparing them while they're there, you're preparing them post ODU, whether it's a professional career, whether they want to get into coaching, whether they want to get into, get into the media side of it as well, or if they want to move on and, like you said, having that network of ODU alumni, which also speaks volumes as well. So when you have that degree and it says Old Dominion, people's eyes open and say, hey, that's a pretty good school you went to.
Yes, it definitely says that. And I want to add this to that conversation about the shell drill. When you look at the WNBA now and even the NBA, you see them using the 2-3 zone. And I asked myself why. I understand that there are some situations where you probably need to pack the paint because they have a dominant big or some dynamic guards that could really get in there. But that's still something that a solid man to man could solve, you know. But when you have an influx where both the WNBA and the NBA are very young, and those players are coming from straight out of high school for some NBA players, or a year or two in college, you know, and then they're in the league. And but WNBA players, they go through college for 4 years. If they never really were taught that on the grassroots level, they probably still don't have a good grasp of it throughout their 4 years in college if the coach doesn't primarily play that. So now when they get to the league, they're probably more comfortable in a 2-3 than they are in a man to man. So I think that that's curious to me as to why I see it so much on the professional level.
You know, you just said something. I think at some point, maybe not right away, you're going to start to see some of the young ladies be able to do 2, 3 years and then be able to, make themselves eligible for the draft. What do you think about that?
Ooh, I know my morals aren't their reality because the world that I grew up in, it
It's
was one
totally
where
different.
yeah, it's a completely different world and time, and
Hmm.
you do have to adapt and adjust, or you will get left behind.
Correct.
So, I mean, I think it's a beautiful thing when they do go, when they have to be somewhere for 4 years, because it does give them that opportunity to earn their degree, and then they have something to fall back on. But then at the same time, now that the new collective bargaining agreement has come into existence and they're making more money, then maybe if they do leave early, they do have the opportunity to go back and pay for their education now that they're making more money to do so. So if it was an option for them to, I don't know if I'll necessarily be for or against it. I'm just here to coach and do the best that I can in the arena that I'm in and the times that we are coaching within.
Now, you just said something, and boy, for us being considered old school now, oh, that hurts to even say that now. But having to adapt. As you just said, we came up in a different time. We came up in the early 90s to mid 90s, right?
Mhm.
And yes, some of the things are different. What do you feel you've had to adapt from when you were playing to the way things are now from a playing perspective?
Well, I feel like the style of coaching that I was reared up under is different from what the young women can handle these days. The players, I think they're tough, but they're tough within a more sensitive way, if that even makes sense. It almost sounds
Yes,
oxymoronic, you know, but
yes.
there is a necessary balance that you have to be able to tap into if you really want to be able to coach them up and challenge them properly so that they can get better. So I think that's probably one of the major adjustments that I have learned to take. When I first got into coaching, I probably did more expressing of myself, where it was very dramatic and demonstrative, and I'm using my hands. And for this generation, it can almost have them take a step back and they're like, that seems aggressive to me. And they miss the message because they see everything else that's going on. So now I've learned how to explain myself. And you literally have conversation with them, and it extends beyond the practice court. You have to spend time with them. You have to go to lunch with them. You have to engage in things that are interesting to them before you even try to come in and really force feed them all the wonderful things that you have to give. You got to learn how to have that give and take in that relationship so that they'll be able to open up to you and you can teach them without them even knowing they're being taught.
And to your point, your coaching style, that was a part of the way you were brought up, right? That's how you were coached.
Most definitely. And I learned a lot too through that. All my coaches, they didn't always make me feel the best. I didn't
Yes.
necessarily like how some of them tried to play mind games and manipulate for the bad rather than for the good. I didn't like how some of them were overly emotional and held grudges for whatever reason. So I looked at all of those things, and it has allowed me to be a better coach today because I said I always put myself in my player's shoes. If it were me, would I really learn in this environment? Would I really appreciate what's being said? Or would it make me kind of build a wall and I kind of shut down and it'd be harder for anybody to get to me? So when I look back on those moments and I look at the individual that's sitting in front of me, it teaches me how to handle them accordingly.
Now, in all of that, there's still a fine line, though. There's still a fine line where you have to say, okay, I have to set a barrier right here because I have to push you in some form of fashion and still make you uncomfortable, correct?
Yeah, you do, but I would rather it be done by choice than by force. And I have a lot of healthy conversations with my players in the middle of practice. I use life lessons as a teachable resource for me, even when I'm talking about defense, because the life and art type balance, they kind of blend perfectly together when you look at basketball as an art and life. And what I do is, because I have great relationships with my players, they understand that when I come with an intensity and a passion, it's not to belittle them or disregard how they feel. Because I know them and they know me, they know that it's coming from a place of love and I want what's best. So I ask them, do you want the truth? Do you want the truth right now? And they, 9 times out of 10, they'll say yes. And then I say, okay, here's the truth. That's not your best effort. And you know you have better in you. So give
Mhm.
it to me. It's a non-negotiable when it comes to certain things. And when you can
Okay.
talk to them like that, they get it.
And I like that because at some point you're firm, but you're fair.
Yes.
And like you said, you didn't want to be the coach where you felt like you're being unrealistic. You're holding that grudge from a practice 2 weeks ago. And
Mhm.
so you want to get the best out of your players. In today's times, I feel like you have to be more of a manager slash coach because you're managing a bunch of different emotions, you're
Mhm.
managing a bunch of different abilities,
Mhm.
and you're trying to mesh this all together for the betterment of the team.
Yep. But you want to know the first person that needs managing is usually yourself.
That's true.
I
That's
wake up
true.
every morning and the first person I'm checking is me. Let me check what happened yesterday that I might still be holding on to today. Well, when I after I wash my face, I look in the mirror and I ask myself some questions. And then I say, is this the energy that I want to take to this new day and this new opportunity? And if it's not fitting of the moment, then I leave it alone. Because how can I say one thing to my players but I don't live it? If I tell them each day you have a clean slate, I'm not going to hold your mistakes for yesterday against you today. How can someone ever make traction to progress if they're always trying to uh, make up for what happened the day before? So with my players, I always come to them with an open mindset, a fresh perspective, and that kind of relieves them of some pressure and allows me to come in emotionless, and now I can approach them in a way to where they're not guarded, and we both can win in the situation.
And so when a young lady graduates from your program, what do you feel you need to have done in order for that young lady to be successful? I know a lot of it falls on the young lady
Yeah.
or the young prospect, but what do you feel? Do you have a plan for both of or for all of them, or do you use the same formula for all of them?
I use the same formula for all of them. I want them to be fierce on and off the court. I want them to have a confidence about them the same way that they do on the court when we're trying to teach them how to become a knockdown jump shooter. You have to put the reps in order to be confident enough to take the shot and have positive results the majority of the time. Well, it's the same thing for the person. The same way I coach the player, I coach the person. If their conduct is unbecoming, then I'm going to hold them accountable and I'm going to coach them through that, even in life. So now when they leave here, they have the skills necessary for them to be a valuable asset to society, whether
Absolutely.
they're in a boardroom or whether they're balling on a court. They can walk in a room and own it and have a presence and feel confident about it and posture themselves properly.
I like that because, as we all know, everybody's not going to move on to the professional levels, and that's fine. But you
Right.
can take those lessons you learned on the court and implement them in Fortune 500 companies, your own business, whatever you decide to do. And, that's why I always hold basketball near and dear because some of the stuff we learn in high school. We
Yeah.
still use some of those principles right now and expand on what we've learned, because even some of the stuff we learn through experience, we can say, okay, we learned this in high school, but now that I'm 20, 30 years past that, I can add a little bit more because of experience I had in college, experience I had outside of college basketball as well. And now you turn into the person you have right there as the head coach.
Yeah. It's like being an athlete is where it's at. And I can understand why people want to hire athletes because who has been, whether you're an athlete or whether you served in the military, those people are ripe for the picking to come in to any corporation and be the missing link that they needed. Whether it's to be the individual they can put on the pedestal and they can lead, or it's to be the individual that can just be the glue. They could come in and just bring everything together and hold it solid by being that ultimate team player. That's what makes being an athlete so phenomenal. And I remind my players on the daily that remember, you are unique. There's a lot of people that want to be you, but can't. You can be them, but they can't be you. So remember how unique you are, and you are setting yourself up later in life to where you have an edge and an advantage. So don't just look at this as an isolated thing in practice when I'm repeatedly telling you the same thing every day about holding your follow through. There's a life lesson in that too. A hard head makes a soft behind. When are you going to learn to take the onus and the responsibility yourself to do it without being told? And now when you do that, you become better. So it's the same thing in life. Are you going to keep speeding and not stopping at the stop sign? Well, you're going to keep getting tickets. Then eventually you're going to lose your license. You're going to learn the lesson one way or the other. So it all comes together. And I think that's what makes athletes great hires.
I agree with that. And I like that because, sometimes, you know, a lot of people in high school kids get the shock of their life. Just like when you go from middle school to high school and then high school to college and then even college to the pros, you might have been the big dog, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
coming from whatever middle school to high school. Well, now you're 13, 14 and you're playing against 17, 18-year olds now. Now you
Hmm.
get out of high school and you think you're the big dog. Now you're playing against 22, 23-year olds, and it's an adjustment. And then let's speak from the pros. Okay, you're 22, 21, 22, 23. Now you're playing against grown women that are 30 to 35. Yeah, grown. I mean, you're
Grown
an
women.
adult at 21, 22, but you're not a grown woman at 30 to 35 that has been through everything.
Correct. I think you kind of explained my whole life to me because when I was with USA Basketball, there were some women on the team that were in their 30s, and here I am, a young 24-year-old. So they
Mhm.
had years on me. Then when I got to the pros, the WNBA, when in its inception, it was a mature league.
Yes.
So I was once again young playing with grown women. So I was able, my learning curve was short, boy, because they were kicking my butt and taking my name at the same time. But I took those bumps and bruises and it allowed me to learn faster. So if the young ones in this generation can open themselves up to that process, it's a lot that they can be rewarded of from it.
But see, I think when you first came in, it was different because, like you said, the WNBA's inception, they were bringing in legends and vets at the same time. So,
Yes.
the league was trying to grow, but you had some of the best that hadn't played in the bit. Well, they played overseas and they'd been dying for this opportunity.
Correct.
So, when you had some of those players, I was like, goodness, great, like a Cynthia Cooper. My
Ooh.
goodness, yeah.
I was like, where'd she come from? And her game was filthy. Oh, it was so nasty. But and she didn't mind talking that talk and busting your tail and then being sweet to you after the game. She didn't mind. So she had that good, nice, nasty about her.
But then you turn around and then you had the athleticism of your Lisa Leslie's,
Mm,
your Cheryl Swoops.
mm.
You had your Tina Thompsons. I mean, even Dawn. Dawn was a vet by that time. You know, she
Yep,
was an
yep,
experienced vet. I mean, Edna as well. Edna,
yep,
they had been overseas for years when they came back to play. And
yep.
that's, to me, that's what made the league just so good at the time, because you had these people that had been hungry for this opportunity here in the States, and they finally got it. And here comes good old Delisha Milton Jones, ready to make a name for herself. But like you said, you had to earn it, and it took some time. Those vets weren't going to let you just come in there and take over. Nah, you're going to have
Oh
to
no, not at all. Like not when this is an opportunity they've been dreaming of. They get to play on
exactly.
their home soil in front of their people. They were not going to allow that opportunity to slip away, especially into the hands of a young buck that didn't have a clue as to the grind that they
Mhm.
had been on for years. So now here we come, happy go lucky, Johnny come latelys, just hopping into the league. We had to have a level of respect for
Yes.
who those women were and what they did. And I'm so grateful for being able to be brought up in the game during that time, because I was young enough to be taught by the older generation and I can
Mhm.
pull from them, but I was also young enough to where I could relate to uh, the rookies that were coming in, because we weren't that far apart in age. So I kind of was in that middle, and I got the best of both worlds, and I think that has helped me prolong my career, kept me young for a long time, and now it's helped me to be able to have an understanding of how to bring all of that together as a coach.
I, man, and that experience right there, that's something, not only is it invaluable, to be honest, I look at that as like intellectual property that you have, because people would want to pay you to get that knowledge basically, and try to understand, because everybody can be a couch quarterback, as they say. They can second guess you 100 times over. Why did you do this? Why did you do that? Oh, she doesn't know what she's doing. She's not a good coach. And they
Hmm.
don't understand from experience or being detailed enough to break the game down all the way down to a single play to explain why you did X, Y, and Z. They can't do that.
Nope.
They
Nope,
can't
they
do that.
can't.
But
They
they want
can't.
to they want to question why you do it though.
Oh, look, the world is full of couch coaches. There's nothing wrong. We have professional couch coaches out there. There's a place for everybody. But the paid professionals that are the ones that are in the leadership positions on the sidelines with the clipboard with 3 seconds left on the clock, and you on defense, what you gonna do? Or you on offense, whose hands are you gonna put the ball in? We're giving those titles for a reason, because someone believes in us. And I love the fact that someone understands my journey, and they understand the beauty of it and how I can pass along that information that I have been given through my experiences to my players.
But like you said, and I know we have to get ready and wind this down. And I could pick your brain all day. But what you're doing is, I mean, you just said it earlier, you're giving back and you're taking that knowledge and you're pouring it into these young ladies that are basically young adults now. And hopefully someone ends up being the next Delisa Milton Jones.
That would be a blessing. That really would. But anyone that does have the opportunity, I just want them to be the best version that they can be, for themselves, where they can be proud of them, their family can be proud of them, and then they can come back and reach far behind them and bring someone else along. That's what this thing is about for me. It's not about the check. It's not about having a certain logo across my chest. I've
Mhm.
had plenty of people tell me, "Oh my gosh, you need to be on the Power Five level. You need to be doing this. You need to go coach in the WNBA." I am where I'm exactly supposed to be, doing what I am called to do. And no matter the level, I don't care if I was coaching high school right now. They're going to get all of this, because I feel like I have seeds to plant in the fertile soil that is within every athlete that is under my tenure, and I want to be able to prune and groom so that when they do present themselves, they present themselves as a beautiful bouquet or a beautiful garden.
That's a great analogy right there. You know, I want to leave with this question right here. Even though ODU is considered a blue blood, as you just said, and people don't know that, why ODU over the rest of these programs?
For me, it was ODU because I feel like it was a godsend. I feel like the timing, timing is everything. There's a season for everything. There's a season for growth. There's a season for change. There's a season for everything. And I feel like my time that I spent at Pepperdine was so valuable. And I'm forever indebted to Dr. Stephen Potts for giving me my first opportunity as a young head coach. Then I went from there to Syracuse. And only being there for 9 months, I must have gotten what I was supposed to. I must have been what I needed to be for someone there, or receive what I was supposed to receive. Because who would think of changing jobs in the middle of a pandemic when there's so much uncertainty, and it's an uncomfortable environment to be in? But when ODU came along and the opportunity was offered, it was offered in a way to where I knew there was no denying the fact that it was God that sent this, and it was for me to take. And so I walked into it, and I'm forever grateful for being that bold and for him being that gracious and blessing me.
Listen, I couldn't agree with you more on that, because that's just a situation where, it's a blessing, and not only is it a blessing, but when you have an administration that's behind you and supporting you the way they are, I just look at this as just a matter of time before you're writing the same sentence with the Don Staley's, the Gino Ariemas, and the rest of them, because when you can see it and understand it, to me, you just say, hey, it's just a matter of time. When she gets the right personnel in there, it's going to be it's going to be a knockout. It's definitely going to be a knockout. And I think the Sun Belt better get ready, because what you guys bring to the table, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be very interesting. And I'm excited to see it. And I need to get a hold of your SID, because I want to be right there writing an article about this front and center, so I can get my media credential. And I have to be careful interviewing you after the game, because I have a big smile on my face. But
Well, look, we have it for you. You just say when, and where, and we'll make sure that you're taken care of.
definitely. Listen, Coach Jones, I really appreciate you coming on the show. This was a while in the making, and this was so worth it. Definitely good luck for next year and going into the new conference. As a matter of fact, I know when you play Georgia State, that's a 15-20 minute ride for me. So I'll be right there for that one.
Hey, consider it done. Consider it done. We're in there.
Definitely. And I'll probably see you next live period, which is this weekend.
Yes, yes.
And you'll have your staff in a number of places. And this is what you were telling me from a travel perspective. Whew, that's another part people don't understand. You're going to be at this event, then you go to the next event the next day, and then the following event, it may be a shoe event. And I was like, man, in a matter of 4 days, you might have been all over the country.
No doubt, no doubt. But you know what? We're here for it all. This is what we signed up for. So all my future monarchs out there, we're on the prowl. We coming.
Absolutely, absolutely. I can't thank you enough again. This will not be the last time you're on the show. Thank you for coming on, and we'll be speaking real soon, okay?
Okay. Thank you so much, David.
All right, you have a good one, okay?
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Coach Milton Jones, let me tell you something. Not only a Hall of Fame player, but a Hall of Fame person as well. Definitely didn't have to do this. And to be honest, just a small secret about this, man, this took us about 8 months to make this happen. It took us about 8 months. And when she could do it, I couldn't do it. When I could do it, she couldn't do it. But you know what? It's patience. And then when you know people in the business and they're genuine, like herself, it's going to happen. And you just say, we're going to catch up. In due time, we are definitely going to catch up. And, I just looked at it, when she finally had her assistant hit me, I was like, oh, yeah, this was perfect because it was the perfect week for me to do it and to have her on as well because just before we got on the show, she's going to be all over the country. And this next week, I don't even want to think about it myself, where I'm going to be, going to JUCO events, to going to war games, to going to Peach Jam as well. So I'll have some miles myself, but it's always great to really just fellowship with coaches like that are living the same type of grind that you are, and really not even the same type of grind, because that 20 hours a day, Coach Millen, you got that one. You got the 20 hours. No. I usually stop at about 16, and by that time I probably fell asleep by that time. And so I just look at this like it's always refreshing because to see people that actually care. And not only do they love the game, they care about their kids and they care about people. That's the biggest thing for me. And those are the type of genuine people I want to have around, not only for me, for my son, for anybody else that are big in this game, because this game in itself, sometimes it can be ugly and it can chew you up and spit you out in the same sentence. But when you have people like that, you definitely want to keep them in your corner. We have Coach Reggie Theus coming on. He's logging in. He's having a little bit of difficulty, but we're going to have him on in a second. But in the meantime, while he's coming on, listen, for you high school kids coming up this week, especially you 2023s, this is the last live period for you guys. And with this being the last live period, you got to put it all on the table. Now, like Coach Milton Jones just said, parents, please don't be in there acting the fool. Are these coaches evaluating their kids? Absolutely. But she said it herself. They are looking at you in the stands acting crazy. They are looking in the stands at you, calling the refs all types of unbeknownst names we won't get into. And then they're also looking at how you talk to your kids and how you talk to the coaches and just how you just wheel and deal in that environment, because that dictates whether they're not just recruiting you, they're recruiting you and the family. So if that family is not a good fit, you'll hear that 100 times over where they say, listen, we like the kid, but we don't think it's a good fit. That's a polite way of telling you something is not right that they are not willing to put up with. And I would hate to see anybody lose a scholarship opportunity off of behavior, on-court antics. Kids, stop all that staring down and stepping over folks, because a lot of times that is what gets a lot of these heated moments when you staring these kids down and somebody's having a bad day, or you're just really better than that person and they're frustrated and you're adding insult to injury by just really downing this person. Well, they're going to come in and they're going to say, hey, I'm tired of this. And they may turn around and push you. They may knock you down because they want it to stop. And the last thing we need in any of these events is a fight. We don't need that, because that's going to ruin your chance. That's going to ruin the other kid's chance. And I can only hope and pray that the parents don't jump and come down on the court, and that ruins it, possibly getting the parents arrested. And we just don't need that we've had a good year so far. Let's keep it that way. I'm going to go on pause real quick and help Coach Theus come in. I will be right back. I'm gonna hang up. Okay, all right. Okay, I got you now. I got you.
All right.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I hear you fine.
Okay.
How,
All right.
how long?
So we're
how long
gonna
are we
jump
going?
on.
How long? How long are we going? So I'll know.
30 minutes, just 30 minutes, because I got
Okay.
I got coach the coach from East LA Community College coming on after you.
Okay. Do we have a 5 or 10 minutes that I can do something really quick?
No.
Well, okay. All right. Go ahead. All right. Well,
Okay.
just give me 3 minutes then.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Thank you guys for being patient. We were just working through some difficulties. So I have Coach Diaz coming on in about another 2 minutes. We were just having some problems. So I appreciate you guys being patient with getting Coach Diaz on. We had to go through some back channels to get him on. So I definitely appreciate everybody coming on to the show and being patient. Real quick, while we have another 2 minutes before we get Coach Diaz back on the show, coming up this weekend, and I wanted to mention this as well, is the JUCO Women's All-Star Game here in Atlanta, where they have the top 40 JUCO players in the country coming down to Atlanta. There'll be over, if I'm not mistaken, over 65 to 70 coaches watching some of these the top 2023 JUCO players, and some of them will be getting offers on the spot. So I definitely wanted to check that out. This is actually year 15 for it, and for it to be year 15, I'm looking forward to seeing that as well as War Games on the women's side. Brandon Clay will have an event in Atlanta, so Atlanta will definitely be the place on the women's side. And 2 hours away is the inaugural, not even the inaugural, the traditional Peach Jam for EYBL that everybody likes to go to. So I'm going to slide over there for one day to check out some of the EYBL games as well. So I'm looking at this as another basketball weekend, and I always get excited for these type of moments because I get to see not only some of the best girls, but I also get to see some of the best boys as well. So we're getting ready to bring Coach Diaz on right now.
What's up, big fella?
How you doing, man? How you doing?
Man, you got me in the middle of a meeting. You're beating up on me over here.
Hey, listen, we do what we can to try and help these HBCUs. And, when we met last October, and, I tell people this story all the time, I was sitting in the corner by myself just evaluating, and you came and sat down next to me and started talking. When you started talking initially, I didn't look up to see who you were because we were talking about Jordan Booker from Chicago. So we were just going back and forth, just talking about the kid. And I so happened to look up and I said, oh, man, I know who you are, man. And I looked at it like, it was just fate from a perspective of, I already knew you got the job at, Bethune-Cookman, and congratulations to that. And you're trying to build a really big thing down there. And, a lot of people are jumping on the HBCU train, but
Right.
I look at this like, I think Bethune is going to surprise some people coming up next season for some of the personnel you have coming in, and you still got 1 or 2 left that you may surprise some folks with.
Well, listen, we don't want to overstate things, but we have a chance to be. There's a lot that has to happen. I mean, recruiting is a funny animal. You can get a lot of talent, and they don't mesh together. Um, Injuries always play a big part, but we should be significantly better than we were last year. Um, and I say that with great respect, but at the same time, I was really the tallest guy on our team last year. 'Cause I also So with that said, that kind of gives you an idea of what we were dealing with. But I did get hurt. I lost my two bigs. I only had two, and both of
Yeah.
them got hurt. So I was very short on the bench. I rode my guys very hard, and listen, we were in a lot of games. We were up at halftime a lot of times. We were battling, but in the end, we just didn't have enough horses, and we ran out of gas on a lot of nights. But I felt good about the direction. I felt good about the culture that we started to build, and the attitude of our players, and what we have now coming back is a team full of hungry guys, a team full of guys that believe that they have a chance to be really good. And now we have to see what they can do and how they can accomplish becoming a real unit. When I say that.
And it's funny you mentioned that because like I said, I met you at the JUCO Jamboree, and as we know in this day and age, getting older is the lay of the land to be
Yeah,
successful in college basketball.
yeah,
And but in the same sentence, you still have to have a healthy mix of one or two or three freshmen, and you groom them to get to that point of some of the JUCO transfers or grad transfers that you bring in. Let me ask you this: for the young guys that are out here that are struggling because they feel like they're not getting any playing time, and it's a situation where they have to be patient and learn the system because this is a big jump from high school to college. What do you say to them?
well, also the portal has been really rough
Oh
on the
yeah,
young
yeah,
guys.
yeah,
The portal is like, the positive for the young guys is they can sort of go where they want to go, when they want to go. The negatives is they can go when they want to go.
yeah,
So if you get a young kid that is a freshman and does really well, then you have power fives, you have upper mid majors that are basically going to be recruiting your kids. So to
yeah.
hold on to a good freshman is really, really tough to do these days. Um, so you have to re-recruit your kids. You have to make sure that you're giving them the opportunity to grow and that they want to come back and play for you. Otherwise, you can't keep freshmen. So that it's really doesn't do anyone any good to recruit freshmen at this time. Even though I've recruited, I think 3 freshmen on this team that are pretty good, and I've accepted the fact that if they do really well, I'm going to have a conversation with them about their future and what's best for them. It's hard to young people when you start talking about young people. I mean, obviously you were young once. You remember how, you know, I want to say how stupid you were,
Hmm.
but we all were. We all were back when we
Hmm.
were younger. And now that they have in front of them the opportunity to do other things, that doesn't mean the grass is greener on the other side.
Absolutely.
The
Absolutely.
opportunity might be there, but the opportunity might not be better than where you're at. And many times a kid make a move and that move doesn't work out. And then now you spent the majority of your college career transferring. And that does no good for your overall college career and your ability to go play for money at some point in your basketball career.
Hmm.
So stability is still a very important thing. Um, you see a lot of times guys have a good season and then they lose 4 or 5 of their guys because other schools come in and take them from them. So it's a
Yeah.
real strange market now. Uh, the lower mid majors are basically, it's become free agency, and it's become basically a recruiting bed for bigger schools, which makes it really tough to be consistent in what you do. So, young kids, it's about growth and consistency. And the problem with today's society is most of these young kids come right in thinking that they're already better than they are.
Exactly.
And they come in with a mindset of they're kind of spoiled, and they've kind of been given things before they deserve it. It's kind of the nature of the beast today. And it happens in the league too. I mean, guys are getting paid a lot of money before they actually deserve that money. So you have to continue to teach them. You have to continuously, put your arm around them and really talk to them. But the ultimate thing is that, you have to give them the opportunity to grow. And the problem is they already think they've arrived. And competition is still the best deterrent there is. It's the best thing that's out there. I tell people all the time, and people don't believe this, young people today. I played 5 minutes a game as a freshman at UNLV when I came in.
Really?
5 minutes a game. And there's no way. I go, yeah, because coaches in those days didn't play freshmen in front of their upperclassmen.
Mm-hmm.
You had to earn your spot. So I'm just one of those guys that I don't make deals. I don't promise any minutes. And I think that when you handle people that way and you expect your freshmen to come in and earn their time, they're still going to have to make decisions at the end of their freshman year, whether they're going to come back the next year or not. But I believe if they're learning things, if they got a chance to be a good team, you have a good chance of keeping those kids.
Well, yeah, I agree, but what you just said is for you, and I hate to say this, if one of your guys that you poured into and he turns around, he's all SWAC, from the door, you're going to have to fight off Central Florida, Miami, Florida State, and everybody else, because like you said, it's almost like a breeding ground. And they're saying, okay, well, he did some good things in the SWAC. We could really use him here. Maybe we missed out.
Because he's proven.
Yeah.
See, a freshman comes in. He did well in high school, but that's high school.
Yeah.
When you've gotten if you got numbers in a Division I college team, you're fairly proven that you can get it done. And, there's a lot of synergy. There's a lot of video that's out there so they can really, watch and see you play and stuff. So it's a different animal, man. I don't know if it's sustainable. But I don't know if we're going back either.
That's true. So that means you have to basically recruit the kids you have.
Well, you have to re-recruit them.
Yes, correct. Mm-hmm.
Or you have to recruit, transfers and JUCOs. That way that they can't go anywhere after they get here.
That's true.
And that's what I said earlier, that freshmen, guys out of high school right now, they're in a tough situation. Yeah. There's a lot of good young players out there that are not being recruited at all. I think I've got a couple of really good ones that, like I said, they could help us. I hope I can help them grow as players, but keeping them is another story.
And this is year 2, right? Or 3?
Going into year 2. Going into year 2.
So,
and going into year 2 as an athletic director also.
Yeah, I forgot about that. So you're wearing 2 hats at the same time. So that's a whole animal in itself. And, you're still building that culture to the way you want it there at Bethune, correct?
Mm-hmm. And, I've been a lot of places, so I've seen it done on a very high level. And I've had some success in rebuilding, programs. So, but like anything else, it takes a little time, takes a little patience, and it's really about the administration. And I think here at Bethune-Cookman, we have a great administration. Uh, we have a great board that governs the school, and they really want big things for Bethune-Cookman. So I've been charged as the athletic director to build that culture in the athletic department in general, because they want to be successful. But they have their points where they want to make sure that we're also strong academically,
Yes.
and we always have to strive for that. So it's kind of a give and take, but you have to make sure that you wear both hats and understand that even as a coach, you might want to do one thing, but as an AD, you have to see things differently.
Definitely. And I want to touch on something. I remember vividly when you were at New Mexico and you turned that around at New Mexico, because you had a young man that what you did with him, and he was a young freshman too. You remember Herb Pope, right?
Of course.
Yeah,
of
so
course.
Herb Pope's from my hometown. I'm from Pittsburgh. And I remember when you pulled him there, a lot of people said, how did Reggie get Herb to go to New Mexico? And it was more than just basketball. And that's why I think you're going to do well at Bethune, because you know as well as I know, Herb was looking for that coach that was going to coach him. And you were that guy, and you had him playing out of his mind as a freshman. And I was like, he picked the perfect place to go to. And so, I went to Bethune for a year before I transferred to Toledo. And so I understand what you're going through down there to make this happen. And I really feel like when they announced you were the guy for the job, I said, I think it's going to work. Just like anything, I said, just give them time to get everything in place. I think you'll be fine. Let me ask this, as we're keeping this kind of short as well. When you're out at these JUCO jamborees or any AAU event, what do you look for? So these parents that are watching, what are you looking for, or just in general as a coach, that that gets your attention of a prospect? I know you have needs, but just something in general, like you'll have certain things that kids do to say, okay, that's a kid I'll bring to Bethune-Cookman.
Well, I think the overall thing for me is I look at players as, I need shooting and toughness.
Okay.
That's what I look for, shooting and toughness. Toughness equates to defense. Toughness equates to winning plays. Toughness equates to, mental strength. It equates to a lot of things. And shooting is shooting. Shooting, it cures a lot of negatives.
Yes, it does.
I think the other really big thing is if a kid has a motor or not.
You hear that?
If it has a motor, that's a gift. And that motor runs high, runs medium, runs low. There is a difference in that player.
That's true.
And it's not always how many points you score. It's also just your skill level. And we look past making shots, or we look past, whether the team wins or not. We're looking at the tools that the kids have. Where are those tools going to be 2 years from now? There are some guys that will be immediate impact guys, and there's guys that are going to, develop. And so, they fall under different categories. But for the most part, if you got a motor, and you have a skill or two skills, you could be a player.
Agreed. But I'm gonna go back to what you said earlier. To get them to understand whether they're an impact player or a development player. As we all know, everybody thinks they're gonna come in and light it up. And
everybody walks in thinking they're either Steph Curry or LeBron.
Exactly. And it's hard to get kids to buy into being a role player, because everybody has this idea that they're going to average at least 10, 15. if they're lucky, 20 points a game. And we know that is so far from the truth. And especially when they're not
They
even
won't
looking at
even
it.
they won't even average 10 or 15 minutes. So
Exactly.
ain't no way you're gonna average that many points.
Exactly. But what do you do to get them to understand, listen, to your point, you're going to get 10 or 15 minutes, let alone average 10 or 15 points. You just have to have that hard, honest conversation with them, right?
Well, it for me, it's a little bit easier because of my pedigree. It's a little bit easier because they know where I come from and they know what I've done. So I've one of the best things I've been as a coach is a person who's been able to get guys to realize who they are and how they can play best and how their skills and what they're going to be able to do can help us win.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times it's a very difficult conversation. And it's really just being brutally honest at some other times. And then I have the tools of video, because you can say what you want, but the video don't lie.
Yes, sir.
So getting guys to understand, for the most part, you're not a real 3-point threat, so you need to stop shooting so many threes. That's a tough one because they all believe that they're Steph Curry. They all want to do what the 3-point shooters do.
Yeah.
And my thing is just be really great at what you do best, and you'll help us. If you decide to play a different way, you can play basketball, but you just can't play here.
That's just as true as it get right there. I mean, And if it's a conversation that needs to be had to say, well, coach, I really believe that. And you're saying, well, there's another school for you, basically.
Yeah. And I'll do I do all my guys the same way. I tell them, I don't care who plays. I make no deals. Best players play. The guys who work the hardest at practice will play. The guys who guard their guys will play. Now, if there's somebody that falls into a different category and there's just not enough minutes, and we got too many guys at one spot, that's a different story. But for the most part, and again, parents become a problem too, because parents today's game are way too involved. And you want the parents to advocate for the kids. You want the parents involved, but some of these parents are way over the top. And, I've had to, shut them down a few times. But they get a lot of pressure from home.
Yes.
And that makes them react differently. And listen, we all want to push our kids to be great. But you have to let the coach do his job. And I tell parents all the time, unless you're at practice every day and you're watching your kid at practice every day and what he does and what he doesn't do, you really can't have a conversation with me about what you think, because what you think doesn't mean anything.
And then it just doesn't translate to the game, because a lot of parents think they know the game and they really don't.
Yeah. They think they know a lot of things. And, listen, I want my parents to have real conversations with me, but it needs to be about their kids' well-being, about their academics. And we can talk about basketball kind of like on the peripheral, but I don't really let parents get into deep conversations with me about basketball because they just don't know.
Yeah.
And I don't want them to feel like they can't talk to me. So I have a general conversation, and that conversation does lean toward, if you're not at practice every day, then you can't have a conversation with me about your kid and how he's playing, because it's not about just games.
That's true. And I look at that as, whether it's you or a Blue Blood program, there's just some intangibles that are just non-negotiable. Just at the end of the day, they're non-negotiable. If you don't do X, this is not going to happen. If you don't do
Yeah.
Y, this is not going to happen. If you don't do
Oh,
Z,
yeah.
you can't play, whether it's at Bethune-Cookman or a blue blood program. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Those things, I don't care where you go, what level, whether it's D1, D2, D3,
Yeah.
those coaches are going to expect the same thing out of you. And man, you know, I'm just looking at this, and especially for Bethune-Cookman, you know, especially those rivalry games, and you know, being in the SWAC conference, because the SWAC got some good teams as well.
Oh yeah,
And
no, the league was separated from top to bottom by one or two games.
that's crazy right there.
We come in sixth place, but we were one game out of ninth place. We come in sixth place, but we're a game and a half out of first place.
Jeez.
So it's.
But
tough.
I prefer that. I prefer where a conference isn't top heavy, and if they play the ninth place team, it's a 30-point game.
Yeah,
I prefer seeing exactly what you're talking about, where the ninth place team is in the game at halftime, or they're in the game with 2 minutes left. And that makes you better, not only for tournament time, but if you're able to get a NIT or a CBI, you know, whatever the case may be, that you're battle tested by that time. You're battle tested.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, my goal here is I want to be the first guy to take Bethune-Cookman to the NC2As. You know, they've never been, and I want to be that coach.
Okay. I don't think that is something that can't happen. I mean, I think
it's doable.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's doable. I think you can definitely get in the SWAC. And I want to take it a step further. Not only take them to the dance, you know, the MEAC and SWAC have had a history of knocking off an NCAA team here and there.
Yeah.
And that's to say that's not out of the question. I mean, especially with JUCO.
Well, look at St. Peter's. Look at St. Peter's last year.
Yeah, that's my guy up there at St. Peter's. I mean, he had those guys rolling. And to your point, that's, again, you just never know, especially when you're bringing in guys that are seasoned and, like you said, have that experience. Now it's a different ballgame. It's a totally different ballgame.
Shaheen did a great job with them. He's a good coach. That got him a job at Seton Hall, and that was his alma mater. That's where he should be. So, you know, kudos to him. And you know, but that team had real toughness. That team played a great brand of basketball, and you know, and it's a very small school also. So you just never know, man. Never know.
What you just said is how we met. So when we were sitting and evaluating kids, we were looking at talent. Of course, some of it was clear cut, but we were looking at the kids that were tough. And that's where we connected, because I was like, that kid is tough. And the first thing I said is, he plays a Chicago style of ball. He's a tough player. And I like those type of players. And you looked at me and I looked at you, and it was kind of like we were on the same language, because I was like, I'm not a fan of soft kids. And on the court, let me say that, on the court, you know, I love that tough brand of basketball where no matter what, you're going to keep playing. And those are the type of kids that you can shock the world when they're tough. And as you said, have that motor as well.
Yeah. Well, you're going to have to be tough, because in order to win a game in the NC2As, you're going to be smaller than the teams you're playing.
Yes, you are.
You know, so you got to have good guard play, and you got to be tough mentally and physically.
Absolutely. And so, you know, as we keep this kind of brief, you know, I know you got some big things going on down there, and you know, we're going to do what we can to, you know, to help you, you know, put more of a brand on HBCU basketball as well.
Sure.
And I just look at this, you know, I know Daytona's excited for what you're bringing to the table, but we wanted to get more people in the Atlanta area and the Southeast more familiar. I mean, they know Bethune and they know it's an HBCU, but they don't know Bethune basketball. So we've been talking a lot up here about Bethune-Cookman and, just getting your name out there to these kids. So it's a valuable option because, a lot of times it's the stigma attached that, oh, it's Bethune-Cookman, it's low D1. No, it's not low D1. It's a good brand of basketball to, if you have aspirations of playing professionally, if you're productive, it can happen from Bethune-Cookman.
Well, you have to remember that the NBA goes everywhere.
Yes.
European scouts, they go everywhere. It used to be you had to be at certain schools to get evaluated, to be seen. But, now with the NBA doing even the showcase, I just did a showcase for the NBA and at the Summer League HBCU showcase, where we had 30 former HBCU alumni come in and play, graduates play in front of NBA scouts and personnel at the Summer League. So the NBA is even putting more emphasis on getting that word out there and showing the visualization of these kids playing basketball, because a lot of times, because of the small conferences, they may not be seen nationally. So they bring them into the Summer League and did this showcase, and it's a great thing, and people have to understand that it is really about, I tell people all the time, recruiting is about the coach, it's about the style of play, and it's about your minutes. When you have those three things, all you have to do is do your job. And then if you're good enough, you will find a way. If the coach has any ability to help you get better, you will get better and you will have a chance to make money playing this game. People forget that, yes, we want to get our degree. Yes, we want kids to have a plan B. But kids have dreams, and you can't take those dreams away from them. And their dream is to make money and have a living playing sports. You want them to pursue their dreams, but along the way, you want them to be prepared for life. And this is what we're trying to make sure of. We can build a basketball player. I can show you how to do the basketball moves. Building a strong young man that's going to be successful in life is the hard part. And that's what I really want to concentrate on.
And I couldn't agree with you more, because as we both know, a very small percentage is going to go professional. We know. Yeah. We know that at the end of the day. But if you build a strong, moral young man that when he walks out of Bethune-Cookman, he's able to apply some of these same principles into Fortune 500 companies or into his own business per se. That's what this is all about. Basketball is, you're supposed to use it as a tool to move forward in life. Now, yes, everybody wants to go play professional. Everybody has those aspirations, but you also have to understand you need to have a backup plan in the same sentence too.
Oh yeah. Well, listen, the one thing's for sure, every job that I've ever got in my life came from, and I've had 4, maybe 5 different careers. Everything I've ever done to have the life that I have today came from what I learned on the basketball court. Came from what I learned in a team sport. I tell our guys all the time, corporate America loves you. You are built for corporate America, because corporate America is about team. Everything that you do as a basketball player, in your locker room, on your team, going to school, is the same thing they do in corporations. You work together, you learn together, you fight together. Somebody falls down, you pick them up. They are looking for people that are good teammates, but they're looking for people that understand what hard work is all about. So the lessons that you learn by playing sports are going to carry you for the rest of your life. Agreed. So this is there is an absolute correlation between life and sports. They're in the same lane, but young kids today got to understand, athletically, corporate America loves you, so you have to understand that. And my dad always used to tell me, just be passionate about something. Get on that road once you get on that road, God has got control of where you end up. But he wants you to do the legwork to get on that road and start heading in the right direction.
Agreed.
You will end up where you're supposed to be.
Definitely. Listen, Coach Theus, man, you know, I can pick your brain for another hour, but I know your time is limited. And, you know, as the AD as well, forget just basketball. Your day is running 18, 19 hours a day right now.
Yeah.
Getting ready for football season and everything else with Bethune. But you guys start next month, right?
Yeah. Well, they start practice in August, and we start school August 16th. So it's the whole it's on and cracking already. So we got another 10 days in between the end of summer school and the beginning of school. So it's on and cracking now.
Yeah, man. Well, listen, I'll definitely be down there. I'll be down there probably for homecoming as well as the FAM Bethune game for basketball. And if I'm not mistaken, Coach Garrett was telling me it's supposed to be at the end of, I hate that it's going to be in March. So I may try and catch another game outside of that one because we wanted to try and set up a little game day atmosphere for that Bethune FAM game.
Yeah, but our game at Bethune is late, but our game there is early. So
like December?
Yeah, December. No, it'd be in Christmas vacation. It's going to happen. But our game is going to be when students are on. So it's a better time because the student body will be on campus. When we go there, they'll be on vacation.
Gotcha. Okay. And like I said, we're going to catch another game there as well because, you know, there's some things we wanted to do to, you know, put Bethune in a more media spotlight as well.
You have to know that we have the best atmosphere in the SWAC. Okay. Our games are lit every night.
I know, especially when you play them on campus.
Yeah, so, you know, when you come here, you just be ready to go because it's on. It is on for sure.
But when you play FAM, it's going to be at the Ocean Center, right?
That's what we're trying to do, yes.
Okay.
That's what we're trying to do.
Okay. Oh, yeah, if you had that one on campus, then, that's not only a sellout, there'll be some upset people because they won't be able to get in.
You know, we had 4 or 5 games last year. We had to turn people away. It's the atmosphere, and we were just a very average team. So hopefully we'll give them a better product and a better game, and winning winning changes the mindset of a lot of things, and we haven't really got into a lot of the building of the culture, getting the houses involved, sororities and fraternities involved. We're gonna have them on board too. So it's gonna really change the dynamics of what's going on around here.
Definitely. Not only am I looking forward to it, but from a perspective of we wanted people to see that HBCU experience that have never seen it. So we wanted them to see it from a virtual standpoint. So if they can't make it, so they can say, hey, that's something I at least like to entertain. And right through here, like I said, I think it's just a matter of time to see what Bethune-Cookman's doing in the SWAC. You know, we just want to keep.
Well, we stream every game too, so
it's on the Wildcat Network, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll have to get that from you so I can put out there on the Wildcat Network. So if people want to watch the games on the Wildcat Network, I'll tweet that out so people can see the Wildcat Network as well. Coach Theus, listen, I appreciate you so much. I have to get ready and go as well because as the HBCU Pro Media Association meeting is getting ready to jump up in another 5 to 10 minutes. But your family, you'll be on here. We'll have you on, and we got some.
Let me know
for you as well. So I appreciate you and Coach Garrett, and we'll be talking real soon. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. You take care.
You do the same.
All right. Coach Theus, listen. When a pedigree speaks for itself, he said it yourself. You know, kids are going to listen when they see people that have lived it. And when you lived it and experienced it, he was a 2-time All-Star in the NBA. He was at UNLV before the Larry Johnsons, the Anderson Hunts, the George Ackles, the Moses Scurries of the world. He was there when UNLV was getting good and started to really take off. So people have to respect his pedigree, and I think he's going to do some real big things down there. That's going to do it tonight for this show. We had two guests that we had some difficulties getting them on, so we're going to reschedule them. So listen, I appreciate you guys for coming on episode 56. We are going to keep building this thing and keep getting bigger and stronger. And we're going to show love to HBCUs just like we do PWIs and give them a platform to speak on as well. That'll do it for tonight. I'm your host, David Jones with Hoops Hitting Gems. You guys take care.